Hey, Lockbox Lunatics listeners. It's another episode of Lockbox Lunatics with me, Steve Lambert, your host up in Kennewick, Washington, and my counterpart, Mr. Chad Kamp, down in Arizona. You're on this side of the screen. That's why I'm doing this because he's on this side of the screen today. So, how's it going down there? I understand that you have
No,
a little bit of rain in your forecast.
yes, no. So we had a fair amount of rain last night, early this morning through middle of the day.
Nice.
So the high front was moving in, the low front was leaving. I don't know what it is. So I'm not a weather
God,
forecaster.
I thought you were a meteorologist there for a second. I was this close to being impressed, but then you blew it out the window. So now we're
I
back to where
did.
we started.
I,
Well,
I couldn't
as a
carry it across the
property,
finish line, could I?
right. As a property manager, I know you love when it pours rain because absolutely nothing bad happens.
Exactly. Yeah. So like, when the roof starts leaking and the tenants start complaining, I'm not the first person they reach out to,
I
you know,
can at 2 in the morning. I imagine not.
at 2 in the morning.
Chad got lots of sleep last night.
Fortunately, it didn't start until about 6:30 this morning, 7
Oh,
o'clock.
okay, there you go. So it just blew your day out, right? So,
Right.
needless to say, it's been a long day, folks, for both of us here. It's been a busy time. We thought kind of a fun topic to talk about would be kind of what not to say when you're touring a home, and because we've heard some pretty crazy things out there, and we often find that there's kind of two types of people. When you tell them that the place has cameras, because they do need to disclose that when they list a home, they do need to let you know, hey, there's cameras in the house or there's recording devices, things like that. Now, sellers, you're not supposed to listen in, but we know curiosity gets the cat a lot. But when you tell somebody that there are cameras there and they should watch, they either do one of two things. They're like super cool, got you, and they tour the house and then you go outside to your car and you talk about the house. Or they're super excited to just go ahead and destroy the house, like just verbally accost the house.
And that's the buyers that we're going to talk about today.
Yes. They're as I was referring to, their inner remodeling demon comes screaming out, right? And they seem super excited about it. Like you're like, okay, boy, let's just burn it to the ground as we walk away because this shouldn't even exist anymore, right? It's so bad.
Right.
It cracks me up, man. It cracks me up.
So
So
let me ask this. What do you think is a mitigating factor is to those individuals that when you'll be touring houses and there's no cameras, you don't say anything. You've been there as well as I have. You've gone in and say, "Hey, you're at the door. Hey, be mindful. There's cameras in here," and
Mhm.
that little flip just switches. Okay, what do you think causes that little flip of that switch for them to act differently? I know I have my opinions, but I'm interested to hear yours.
You know, I don't know. I don't know always. I think um maybe they're just having a bad day or they're bitter about something that happened earlier in their life. Um, no, I don't know. Because it does come out of nowhere sometimes. Sometimes I'm like,
Good.
where did that come from, man? Like you're usually pretty chill going through a house and it's almost I don't know. It's weird. Sometimes I don't know. Sometimes they feel like the price versus the house that they're looking at, they'll say, "Oh, well the sellers, they're super rich with their price. Apparently, they need to take better care of their house." And they're not afraid to like let that fly when they're in front of the camera, right? And it
Yeah.
is interesting. And I'll tell you, I was in the middle of a situation one time with a camera and an inspection. So we can visit that a little bit in a minute here. So, but I because I want to hear what your thought process is or your philosophy on why the flip switches.
Yeah. So honestly, in my opinion of that flip being switched, is the buyers think that they're going to show that they have no interest in the home, that it will give them a stronger bargaining position,
Okay, yeah.
and for them to say, well, there are things I don't like about this house. Therefore, this is why I'm offering, this low dollar amount. And these are the items that are a contributing factor for my decision on that basis. Now, as an agent, a listing agent, I always tell my folks, just ignore what they say. Don't listen in. If they say anything negative, I'll make an assessment, but they should be giving me feedback. But if they're trashing the house and we get an offer,
Yeah, seller's
let's
not gonna
break.
be real happy.
Yeah, well, here they're not going to be happy, or we break the Oscar out, right? we get a little trophy, the Oscar trophy, and we say, "Hey, Mr. Buyer, you did a fantastic job selling that. You don't like the house, and I love how the first thing you did was wrote an offer on it." Right?
Right? Yeah, exactly. Here's your
Yeah.
yeah, here's your here's your Oscar on it. Is it
Right.
switch the flip or flip the switch? Did we do that wrong?
Does it really matter? Because because the switch being flipped
Or are we
and flipping
flipping
the
the switch?
switch, we can play this in reverse if we run into that problem.
I
Right.
hear
So Mr. If
anecdotally, if you
anyone's
play a Led
listening and we
Zeppelin
said
album,
switch the flip, just play it in reverse and play the sound and you'll hear it properly.
okay. If you play Led Zeppelin records backwards, I heard that they have other songs on there. So I don't
That's the
try
rule.
Lockbox Lunatics backwards and let us know how that works. It's probably
That's
gonna be a
right.
bunch of gibberish. It could, I don't know. I don't know.
Eat
I
the
know that
hamburger, eat the hamburger, eat the hamburger.
right, exactly.
Uh,
Oh gosh. But it's
well,
been it's interesting though when you see this because it has been a weird client year in that respect and but people do need to understand that when you are trying. I love your angle on that. And that does make a lot of sense to me where they're like, oh, well, maybe if they're watching, I'll beat up the house a little bit and the seller will be like, oh, I should probably maybe the house isn't as great as what we thought. Or they're just going to be super PO'd, like you said, give them the trophy and not even counter back, right? Just put a big
right.
line through it and say, like, offer not accepted. Ta-da, you're done, right? I was in the middle of, and that's been my experience level. We were in the middle of an inspection, and the I represent the seller and the buyers going through the inspection and the seller calls me and they're like, I can't believe the things they're saying about my house. And I'm like, oh gosh. I'm like, you're not supposed to be listening in. That was problem number one. Problem number two is that the buyer was just ripping away on this house, like thrashing it. And ultimately it killed the deal because they came back, they wanted stuff done, and the seller's like, yeah, I'm not doing anything. So nope, like we want this done, we want this done. Seller's like, does not accept any of the requests of the buyer and signs here, and the buyer is like, I want all this done. So, yeah, so they ultimately just killed the deal. And so it's interesting because people don't realize sometimes how emotionally charged people get on that type of stuff, right? And it's kind of snide. You're saying it like, walking through their house. First, they're in your domain. It's your house, right? So you're still very protective of it. It's not theirs yet. You still live there. And so it can make a deal go really sideways.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Did that buyer's agent have a conversation with you in regards to why the seller was refusing to budge? And if so,
Oh yeah, no, I told them. I called them and I was like, "So here's kind of what happened." Because I did want to disclose. I said, "Hey, our seller did an oopsies. Like they shouldn't have been listening." At the same time, it was the type of seller and client that I knew was going to do that, regardless of what I said. They were going to do it anyways. You know what I mean? And we know we can't control everything. We can just advise, right? And
right,
kind of tell them what they should be legally, what they can and cannot do. And but I did tell him that, and the buyer's agent was like, "Well, they weren't supposed to be listening," and I said, "Totally understand that." And I was like, but I said it might kill the deal, you know, and he let him
right,
know that. But then the buyers got PO, so everybody ended up just getting PO'd at each other. The agents and I weren't. We were like, seriously, at this point, like that's where we're at, and
right.
kind of how it went. And yeah, it ended up killing the deal. So the
Mm.
seller eventually did sell. So at the next inspection, I was like, I swear, if you get on that camera, man, and you listen in, like, you're killing me, Smalls. You're killing me. Like, do not do that. So yeah, so they didn't do it. So on the next one, and
Right,
the house did ultimately end up closing and selling. But even like when you do broker opens, like, right, you have to think about that. You have a lot of brokers going through people. It's not just open houses, which are general public, but when we do broker opens, the industry related events, and there's cameras there. Sellers are just by nature, people are curious, right? It's not just sellers, people are curious. If there's the ability for them to just kind of beep in really quick and listen to a few things, they're going to. They're absolutely going to.
right,
And so brokers also, I think when you're touring a house, be respectful, right? Be respectful of the home, be respectful with your comments. One of the best things that I've seen some people do, and I've done it a few times at broker opens, is giving people like a checklist and a pen and a little clipboard. And hey, as you tour the house, give me some feedback. Let me know what you think of the condition of the house. Let me know what you think of what we're offering, the amenities, the colors in the house, things like that. How do backyard and pricing? Do you think this is all in alignment? It's a great way. It can be a great tool, right, to be able to get you that feedback, but it can work against you if people are sitting there. just tearing the house to pieces, and there's
Right.
cameras there. Yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's, I mean, from a buyer's agent perspective, that's a great way to start to look inside of the buyer's heads and see how they think about different features of the home, you know.
hmm yeah.
And so often, I'll use that just to start to get to know the buyer and see how they're going to be utilizing the home. So that
Yeah.
checklist is extremely important or an extremely vital tool, to help the agent start zeroing in on homes, especially whenever you first, take a buyer
Oh
out,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The first, 5, 10 homes, if you get to that many, but obviously the first couple, you start, okay, why did you not like this home? Go ahead and write
Yeah.
it down. What you liked about it, what you didn't like. What you like or what you don't like about it is just as important to us as what you did like. So then we can start, catering to those desires of the buyer, their personal tastes.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking kind of, when it does allow you to have some insight. Like you said, but those conversations, with clients, just take notes, get a checklist, like you said, have that conversation away from the house. There's been many times, and I know you do the same, where they're starting to talk about the house, and I'm like, hey, let's pop outside and get out to the curb or something like that, where we can have a conversation where we're not within earshot of them being able to listen in and things like that. Um, so what would you say is probably one of the most have you heard any like interesting stories about sellers listening in to buyers and any crazy stuff that's happened from that? I don't have anything outside of my personal story. I don't have anything like
Right.
wild.
I don't have anything real zany. I have had like with open houses, right? So
Okay.
if I have a seller and one of my agents are like, "Hey, Chad, can I do an open house at your listing?" Right? Obviously, I want that exposure and give that agent an opportunity to expose the home to have a potential of either selling the property or more likely pick up an unrepresented buyer. And so I remember I always tell my agents, hey, look, be mindful of what is said. You're going to be on camera, and they are going to listen, right?
Yeah.
And so one of those instances, I had an agent out, and every 20 minutes I was getting a text. Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? Right? And it's well because there's nobody in the home. They're catching up on work. They're, reading to improve their skill set, right? Why did they turn the TV on? What are they watching? Well, they put music on. Well, they wanted some background music, for the home,
Yeah.
right? And I'm like, trust me, they're not going to do anything. They shouldn't do anything
Right.
inappropriate,
And it's
right?
like
Now, if they do, yeah, right. But I want to know about it. But turning the TV on for background music, okay, that's setting ambiance.
that's
Okay,
like over engaged though, right? Like that's a
oh
seller
yeah.
that's almost like not really like trust the process, let them do their job, right? They're like
Right.
I love that. If there's a big TV there and I can do some kind of cool. I used to do one thing like we had a house in wintertime. It was always like to warm it up. I would play videos. It's called like a flight over Hawaii and it's on like Discovery Channel or something like that. And they fly over the Hawaiian Islands like with drones and stuff and it gives you this really cool and it's fun because it takes away the blah of winter when we're in the middle of winter. I thought, "Oh, this is
Right.
kind of fun, right?" But it also shows off the house. It shows off some of the acoustics because they had a really nice built-in surround sound. It wasn't like I was blasting it like a party, but kind of throughout the house, and it just gives it, like you said, it gives ambiance. It creates a fun kind of scene when people come in in terms of just the feel and expectations. Makes everybody smile and kind of do that. So, but yeah, but sellers too, you have to be aware that there's a lot of states that have statutes that make it illegal for you to be listening in. Like that's like you can be breaking a law by listening in, and that's in a majority of states when you're doing that. I know that it has to be disclosed, and even with your disclosure, you still can't. You're just not supposed to listen in. Like I said,
Right.
human nature. So let me ask you a quick question. What do you think about when brokers opens are going on or open houses? If you have people that are going in there and doing like selfies, like Instagram or TikToks or whatever in the house, um, because I know that that's become a popular thing. Is that poor form, poor taste, or is that just trying to like, what do you think about that? Because I think that's interesting. Well, I want to hear what you think about it.
Yeah, no, it definitely is interesting, and it's got its pros and the cons, right?
Yeah,
So, first off, if you're going to be doing that, you need to get permission from the listing agent, in my perspective, right?
100%. Yep.
Because you need to have the authority to market. There are certain things that are a given. The MLS,
Mhm.
reposting the MLS photo, right? But
Right.
whenever you start using things like that for more of a marketing approach from reels and things. I typically don't allow that in the brokerage for other agents to do that, right? First
Yeah.
off, my agents should be doing that, right?
Right.
They should be doing everything within their power to market the home. It just also opens up some liability per, as far as I'm concerned, with if let's just say somebody has a Rembrandt hanging, okay, on
Yeah.
the wall, and it gets, and it starts being marketed, and they're like, I didn't want anyone knowing I had that,
Right. Yeah.
especially MI6, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. Do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where no, and that's 100% true because you're exposing yourself to liability because your client has things that they don't want people to know. And I know you have. I've had many clients like that. Like I don't need anybody to know I have a specific type of car or I have this or I have that, right? And I don't really need to know the reasons. That's their reason, and I respect
Right.
that. I work for them, and so that's what we're going to work to protect. Um, but I think one of the interesting things about that too is you don't want like for me and I know you're in the same boat. I don't want the seller to come back and say because I don't know what they're going to do with that information or that photo. How is that going to be, like you said, presented or marketed? And the last thing I want is my client to call me back and say, "Hey, I was at an open house that you were running, or you ran the open house day, or a broker's open, and I got these pictures that I found to be very irreverent, and they're all over social media. I saw it on a TikTok thing that my friend told me, oh, it looks like your kitchen or whatever, right? And you didn't know that they were going to be like marketing it with some crazy little meme or something, right? And now." Yeah, and so I think, like you said, the privacy side of it, and this all does tie back to the cameras and people, just like you said, being respectful of people's space and their domain, right? Their home and understanding. And so, because it goes for agents too, like we have clients that are not afraid to say things, and we have agents that are not afraid to come in and just social media TikTok it up inside of somebody's listing, right? And
Right.
it could look really bad for us as agents if it's misused, right? And so, and like you said, there's a liability with that because we don't have carte blanche to just, cruise into your house and just do pictures all over the place. Like we have very specific photos that we do professionally, and when you tour the home, you tour the home with an agent. So it's so everything's kind of following a certain algorithm and it's protected versus just a free for all of
Right.
photos and selfies, right? It's kind of interesting, but I think that's
Yeah.
something
So,
we'll see more and more of because I mean we see a lot of it with TikTok already and Reels, right? So
right. And that was one thing, because I use, I've got a professional photographer that does my reels, it takes my pictures, my photos, right? And they put the reels together for me for the most part, depending on whether I insert myself at the beginning or, just later record it. But,
Mhm.
I had one specific scenario earlier this year where they did this reel and the background music, they had a lot of language in it, right?
Oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah. And so I sent it over to the client. I'm like, here, and I've never heard the song. I didn't know the song, whatever. I'm like, oh, it's got a cool beat. Listen to the first couple minutes of it, or the first 10 seconds. I shouldn't say a couple minutes, but like first 10 seconds. And I get a message saying, hey, did you know there's a bunch of curse words in here? I'm
oh
like,
wow,
no, I did not. So I went back and listened, and sure enough, it was, you could hear it in there. And so they're like, hey, would you please remove that? We just don't want that associated with our house.
right, yeah,
And honestly,
understandable,
I didn't want it associated with me out in the general public anyway, right? I mean,
right,
and so that's something, you're like you had stated, you don't know what they're going to be doing with it. You don't know what kind of, background they're going to do. You don't know what context they're going to put the home in. And so we're here to control the narrative. I just closed on a house actually yesterday. And they were recommend, hey, why aren't you doing an open house? Well, this was kind of a fixer-upper, and
oh sure, yeah,
I did not want the neighbors going through there, and trash talking the home to the neighbors. I wanted to have, some sense of mystery about the home, so then that way I could set the narrative about the house, right?
yeah, that makes
Uh,
sense, right? There's certain homes too where you're like an open house is probably going to be more detrimental to us at this point, like you said, because people are going to talk in the neighborhood and they're going to say, "Oh my gosh, the place is trashed," or
right,
it's this, or it's got that, it's way overpriced, and it's going to set, like you said, set the narrative of just lowball this sucker because it is what it is, right? And that
right,
can, and maybe the seller, everybody has different variations on clean and organized, and we see everything from great to terrible, right? To not so
right.
great, and the last thing I think that you want to do too is have your sellers feel offended or upset by the fact that maybe their property is being portrayed that way, right? You
Right.
know,
Right.
so because we
And
don't
and
know.
and I will say this, they were phenomenal. They took my advice, they understood where I was coming from, and they knew who, because I went to the great pain to let them know the three different market polls that were out there from a buyer's perspective, the three different buyer polls. And so
Yeah,
it's going to be the fix and flip guys, it's going to be someone who wants to put sweat equity in, and then the end user. Well, we weren't marketing to the end user. And in this market right now, the fix and flippers, or not the fix and flippers, but someone who wants to come in and put in some sweat equity, they're not in the market right now, right?
right. No, they're
Um,
not. Yeah,
yeah, most buyers are wanting a product that's ready to move in, no input, and there's enough properties on the market. We're right around 26,000 homes on the market, or I think 25,818. I looked today. Um, there's enough homes where they can go right down the road, pay 10,000 more, and they don't have to
right.
bother with the painting and the flooring and whatever else needs to be remedied, right?
Get it turnkey. Get it
Yeah,
turnkey.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, it's interesting. So there's a lot of things that we have to keep track of. So you and I talked about briefly about talking about cars and about
right,
cars that are not good for agents, and then and we brought up specifically a mini, Mini Cooper with an aluminum block engine.
right.
And you have some personal experience with this, not you as a realtor, but we were talking about this would not be maybe a great car for a realtor because especially you living in Arizona. So when the car gets hot because of the aluminum block, you said that your mechanic said that when the temperature light comes off, you need to stop the car so it
Yeah.
doesn't blow up.
So it's one of my children's cars, and they wanted a Mini Cooper because it was cute, right? And she loves driving it. She
Oh
really
yeah,
does.
super fun little car. Yeah.
But yeah, whenever it gets overheated, the guy we bought it from is a certified, mini, mechanic, and he's like, as soon as that light comes on, you need to pull over and turn the car off. He's like, because that engine block will melt, it will warp, it
So I
will
got to
crack.
ask you the question because we know how kids are, and this isn't a slam against kids, but we understand that they definitely know more than us. And so, how many how many times has that engine light come on, and how many times have they pulled over with the car and turned it off?
Well, I don't want to throw her under the bus per se. So let's just say that it's happened at least once
Okay, fair enough.
in the
They're
last
still running.
months. Yeah. Yeah. Funny story. So, when we were in Vegas, actually, no, Tammy and I were in Vegas for some of her CE classes. So it was a month before the regional road show. We
Okay.
decided
Oh,
to
that's right. I
leave.
remember you were down there. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
So we decided to leave early, and I'm glad we did because the car was in limp mode, just totally freaked her out. She was sitting in the middle of the road there. And so she had one of Gilbert's finest help her get it off the side of the road and sat there waiting for us. And she called me, and I'm like, well, luckily we left hours, probably 3 hours sooner than what we were anticipating. So we just drove straight to her, and we let it set and had my other daughter deliver some antifreeze because we found out
Oh,
that
God.
leak. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's the
so
Mini Coopers if you think about it. I mean, you know, the finest pieces of British equipment are the Mini Cooper and Range Rovers, and they're notoriously when you need them most, they don't they have a tendency to not
right,
start.
right.
And and it's interesting, and I think it's because one, you have your climate down there, it's dry, it's hot, and they're just used to being in that climate where it's just a constant dreary mist of depression. Sorry for any British listeners out there, if you happen to be listening or you decide to listen to us. I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just poking fun. I had some great British friends of mine that when they lived in Seattle, they loved Seattle because they said it reminded them of better weather than Great Britain. And I was like, my God, the weather is atrocious here. So if this is an improvement, God bless you, because I could not handle living in Great Britain apparently. Anyways, but it's kind of fascinating because I would think it would struggle down there and you would get that overheating light a lot. So I would definitely say if you're a newer agent and you have a Mini Cooper, let's rethink that decision.
Right, right. Yeah, I don't know how we were doing on time.
Yeah, we're close to wrap. We got
We're
yeah,
close.
I think we need to wrap. I think
I
we
think
gotta
we do need to wrap. Okay, well, yeah,
like
I was
not
gonna talk about
literally, not like I'm Steve and you're Chad, like not like that, but we'll just wrap it up. I
I'm,
can't wrap, folks. You don't want me to go there. That would be bad. We might try
me,
that one time.
me. I'm more like Elmer Fudd, right?
Okay. We
So
can make that work.
I can be more like Elmer Fudd than Flavor Flav, right?
Yeah,
Or who?
I saw a funny video today. It's these parents that do these reels, and the guy said if Eminem wrapped pillows, and so he's walking through like home goods and he's wrapping what every pillow says. It was pretty funny actually. So, anyways,
Yeah. I
yeah,
guess you had to be there.
had to be there. Yeah, one
Right.
of those days. So yeah, it was funnier for me than for you, for sure.
Right.
Right
Well,
on.
hey, I just want to thank the listeners for tuning in and spending some time with us. Hopefully, you're able to learn a little bit of the philosophy behind buyers when they are on film, right? Buyers gone wild, right? So just, keep that in mind. But there again, if you would like, comment, and share. And if you have any topics, suggestions, feel free to put those in the comments below. But hey, Steve, appreciate your time. Good seeing you. And we'll see everybody next week. Have a great Thanksgiving. That's
Yes.
coming up next week. Be thankful and share that with your family and friends of what you appreciate about them. So, all right, we'll catch you guys next week.